Well, let's go ahead and talk fire management. So we're going to be smoking on a 250-gallon smoker pit that has an insulated firebox. The key takeaway on that is that with the insulated firebox, you're going to have much better control of your fire. The temperature that's going into your cook chamber, it's going to hold a more stable environment, and we're not going to use that much firewood either. Now, you can start it a couple of different ways. One of them being you can use lump charcoal if you want. You can use briquettes, however, whatever fuel source you have. I would probably steer away from using any kind of chemicals, you know, like lighter fluid, stuff like that. You don't want that flavor kind of, you know, sitting in there. And then, of course, what we're going to do is we're going to take some splits and we're going to break them up into smaller pieces. We're going to create a little teepee inside the firebox. We're going to use a tumbleweed and we're going to get it lit up, right? So we're going to do some pieces that are small enough that will catch and that will burn, and then we'll go from there. Now, one thing to keep in mind is with an insulated firebox, you want to start with a low fire and then ramp up. Don't build a super huge coal bed, because what's going to happen is you're going to get burning and you're going to build this fire that's pretty intense. Your cook chamber is going to heat up, and then when you want to get it back down to temp, you're going to have to wait a while. And then also your grill grates are going to be a lot hotter. So what's going to happen when you place your protein on there, you're going to effectively sear it. All right. So let's go ahead and build a coal bed. We'll start low and then we'll ramp it up to whatever temperature we need it. And then from there, I'll show you how we go managing our coal bed to get a properly smoked brisket. Let me show you how I go about building my coal bed. Now, this is just how I do it. There isn't any right or wrong way to do it, as long as you get the fire going, right? But I like to build a small teepee, and I know it's not like starting off exactly like a teepee, but I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. We take one of these tumbleweeds right here, just like so. We've talked about these before. I'm gonna set them right up here, just like that, okay? And I'm gonna put two, since we're kind of trying to build quickly, right, and get it going. And then I'm gonna take the smallest pieces that I have, the ones that are the driest, and I'm gonna stack them up basically like this. I don't build like what some people call like the Lincoln log set, you know, where it's splits like this and then splits like that. I just get it going with some small pieces. Now, that may work for different cases, like in the event of a bigger 1000, you know, or you're doing you know, got to get things super hot. But this is basically how I do it, okay? This is how I start, and then I just light these up like so. And I will try to put all my lighter, drier pieces up front, and then we go from there. Now, that'll take a minute, so you'll want to give it some time. If you're in a hurry, I do have equipped on this trailer a propane torch that I can hook up and really get it lit up if I want to get going. But I like to let it just do its thing right here. A lot of times, depending on what I'm cooking, this will allow me to get all my stuff prepped, right? So I'll probably bring my briskets out while this fire gets going. And then while this burns, you know, I'll have that ready to go. And then once we get it up to temperature on the cook chamber, then we know that we're good. Of course, that's just one way to do it, okay? So again, feel free to do it however you like. But again, just as a reminder, with our smoker pits, you don't need a lot of firewood to get it started. For one, you just don't want it to get too hot, and then you have to wait until that temperature drops back down to a good smoking, cooking temp, okay? So I always say build small and then ramp up if you need to. You guys will notice that now it's starting to burn. I'm going to add a few more pieces in there because I want it to get tall. I want the heat and the flame to start drawing in a little more oxygen. And then, like I said, we'll just build that up, right? So you can do it a lot faster with means of a torch, but we're just going to go with a very more natural way. Let it do its thing. And while that gets going, we'll come back here in about 30 minutes, or probably about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because we're going to go ahead and finish prepping up what we need to and start bringing our protein out. All right, guys, so we got ourselves a real good fire. We're going to start heating up the smoker pit now, getting up to temperature, and we'll continue to feed it as we need till we establish a really good coal bed. And then we can start putting in the bigger splits, and then I'll show you how we go from there. But you'll notice this is not really big. We're not building this really big super Lincoln log setting here. We're just doing it in a teepee style, and then we add the splits as we go. Let that get hot, let it start burning. We're going to go ahead and shut the door down, put it onto the second notch out so that it still gets plenty of oxygen. And what that's going to start doing is it's going to start taking that heat and that smoke into the cook chamber. And then once we get that ready, then we'll be ready to put our protein in there, and then we can start cooking. So let's go ahead and close the door. We're going to let that burn, get the cook chamber up to temp, get it stabilized, put in the protein, and then we'll add the splits and we'll go from there. We got the fire pit going nice and good. I just added an extra split into the firebox because what we want to do is when we open this up and we get it loading, we got to let it rebound. We're going to lose some heat when we open up those doors. So if you put that split of firewood in there, let it catch, give it a few minutes until it gets going, and then that way when we do open it and when we close it, that's already burning. So we're going to have a little more intense flame in the firebox momentarily, but that's going to help us offset the temperature change or the temperature drop inside the cook chamber. So let's go ahead and load some briskets, and then we're going to work on getting this back up to temp. So it did drop a little bit in temperature because remember, every time you put some firewood in the firebox, it will drop in temperature because it's got to ignite that split. So right now though, we're at a really good range of about 225 to 235. We're going to be smoking somewhere around about 250, and we're going to try to hold that steady throughout the whole time that we're cooking up until the point that we wrap it. When we wrap it, we're going to go with a little bit higher temperature, but when we get to that, we will talk about it then. But let's go ahead and load some briskets up, and let's get some meat cooking. So if y'all remember, we have some 15-pound briskets that we're going to do. On average, they say about 1.5 hours per pound. So of course, that's going to take us late into the evening. However, what we're going to do to offset that just a little bit is that when we do wrap it, we're going to ramp the temperature up, and we're going to be cooking somewhere about 300 degrees. That's going to help out a lot, okay? Especially when we wrap it, because that's going to help us get past the crutch that we all know about, which is that 165 degree to 175 degree temperature range, which is where you're getting moisture starting to evaporate off the protein, so it's effectively wanting to cool it off. If we crutch it by wrapping it, then we can get past that a lot faster, okay? So let's go ahead and load these briskets up. Man, that's a beauty. Now we do have some wireless meat probes on these briskets. And what I'm doing is I'm putting the point towards the rear of the smoker, but at the front over here. And then I have the probe that way. The reason I have the probe pointing that way is that I want to be able to monitor the ambient temperature that's going across that. So these particular probes from ThermoWorks or ThermoPro, they have that option where you can monitor that, but then you can also read the internal temperature of that brisket too. So we got them set in there real nice and neat. We got them towards the end right here. We're making some space because we're going to be putting some chicken and some ribs and cooking. But we got our brisket settled in really nice and neat. So let's go ahead and shut this down. Let's get past that rebound. Let's get the temperature back up and get to cooking. So right now we're got the briskets inside and we're just evening up the temperature. I just turned the damper down to about 10 o'clock. But we're probably sitting at about 260 on this one. And we're just under 250, so we're just letting them equalize right now. But let's go take a peek inside the firebox. Let me show you what's going on. There's no smoke coming out of your firebox, no smoke coming out of the door seams, only at the top, but it's kind of hard to see. If we get here at this angle, you might be able to see it in the camera, I think. There you go. But here's what it looks like inside the firebox, okay? Now here's what we're gonna do. we're gonna take this fire and we're gonna push it forward, and I'm gonna show you, and then we're gonna put some splits in there diagonally across this way and let them burn this way. Then once those get going and once they start to light up and they're burning, we'll push those again, and then we'll stack it up again coming back this way. Let me show you what I'm talking about. When I'm cooking on my smoker pit, I'm gonna take these coals and I'm gonna push them forward a little bit. I wanna get them close to that, but because it's nice and low, I'm not worried about it building up too much heat. And remember, we can always adjust it a little bit by means of the damper, but we're gonna run those just like that. We're gonna leave those right there. Said there's no wrong or right way to do it as long as you got heat. If you got heat, then you're cooking. You know, that's the main point. But if you want to ride that wave, if you want it to last, if you want to take advantage of an insulated firebox, you don't need to build something super tall, but you need to build something a little bit long so it continues to burn. So here's what we're going to do. We got our coal bed up there. We're going to stack these splits like this. Just like that. Okay? We're going to take another split. We're going to come back over here too, just like that. And then I'll just take a small one and let that sit over here. Now what's going to happen is that flame is going to continue coming this way, and it's going to burn those logs, and it's going to keep our fire maintained, right? Of course, it's going to stay low. We don't need very big because we got insulated firebox. It's holding a lot of that heat. Now, when you go to close it, we still got to have some oxygen, so we want it to sip on oxygen. So we're going to take it to the first notch. Over here, we got 1 notch and 2 notch. Take it to the first one. Now we're going to ride the wave, man. We're going to let this thing do its thing. On the temperature right here, check it out, guys. We're running at about 240. About 240. Let's go look at the firebox. And we're burning really good. Check it out. Looking very, very good. All right, guys, so we're about 2 hours in since we put the briskets in. We're doing pretty good. We're using the Temp Spike Pro. And basically what I'm kind of reading right now, interior or inside temp of the brisket, we got one at 119, the other 124 degrees, and we got one more brisket in there that is probably teetering about the same temperature. Ambient temperature, the reason why I like those probes again, and let me bring this in a little closer. You'll see here that one, we got the internal temp reading, and then we have the ambient temp reading. And that ambient temp reading is really letting us know what's going on inside that cook chamber, right? That way we can kind of keep an eye on the firebox. But let me take you to the firebox and let me show you what's going on with running about 235 degrees. And that way you can see, right? It's teetered between 226 and 235. So let's go to see what that looks like inside the firebox. So this is what that 235 degrees is running. We have one split that I put in there running really good. We're doing a really good job at maintaining temperature here. Small coal bed, a split at a time. I'm gonna go ahead and add another split because we're gonna bring some protein back, so we'll kick the temperature up just a little. And then we're gonna throw in some ribs and some chicken. But so far so good. So we're getting ready to wrap our briskets up. They're looking pretty good. And what I'm gonna do first though is, remember we were rendering out that the trimmings into the tallow. So I'm gonna get some of that tallow because I'm sure we can still render some more, but I'm gonna get enough to fill this up because when we wrap them briskets up, I wanna take this and pour it over those briskets and then we wrap them up. Let's see if I can grab this. That's still hot through there. That's why we got these gloves. Y'all guys play it safe. Don't be cool. That smells like just nothing but chicharrones. So check it out, guys. Here's your beef tallow from the drippings. The really good stuff. Nice and clear. I haven't even bothered filtering it up yet, but we're just gonna pour it right onto the brisket, so we don't really need to do that. But we can with the other stuff if we want, all right? So let's go ahead and get them briskets out, and then we'll talk about the wrapping process. Get your pizza peel. I have 2 of them. One's just regular aluminum, pretty thin, and then one is like your traditional wooden pizza peel, and then we'll just go with that. So let me get the brisket out. Keep your eyes over here. All right. When you go to wrap your briskets, you want to make sure that you get them really nice and tight. You don't want a lot of loose space in there. We're gonna get some of this tallow, and we're just gonna pour it right back on there. I'm gonna get it nice and soaked in. All right. Now what you do is you're gonna wanna come, we're gonna wrap this like that. We're gonna fold this in. There's a couple different ways you could do it. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna fold this back this way. And what I'm looking for when we go to wrap is that you hug those corners just like this. Basically shape your paper to the brisket, okay? You want your wrapping to mimic the size of your brisket or the shape of your brisket. You see? That's what you want to do. All right. We're going to set this to the side real quick because we got to make some adjustments inside the smoker pit. But let's go ahead and do the other three and then we'll go from there. I will save you the boredom of watching us move stuff, but we'll go back when we come back here. All right, we're going to go ahead and get our briskets back in here. Now shift it a little bit more to the rear. So one of the things, obviously, when you got your doors open, you're going to drop in temp, right? So you always want to account for that. But we're running nice and even. We have a very good cold bed established here. And let's go see what the firebox is doing. Now it looks to be doing pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that firewood a little bit more forward. And then from there, we're going to add another split. We're going to get this thing up. You know, we're going to start running like about 295 degrees. That'll get the chickens cooked really well. And those will be ready, and then we'll actually get those ready and put them in a hot box so they stay warm. And then we'll kind of push on the ribs and the brisket to get those ready. So here is where we're at. Good little fire, good cold bed going. Come on over here. Now I said we were running a little bit higher temp, so we're running just under about 300. Same over here too, kind of ramping it up. We're kind of in the middle of the stall, but we're going. The ambient temperature that's reading on the meat probe says 294, 289. And then internally, the briskets are 165 and 167 respectively. When you're feeding your fire, you don't need a whole lot. It's burning very low, but we're maintaining really good temp. So we're going on about 9 hours right now on our briskets. Looking at the thermometer, or we have wireless probes. Looking at what it says on there, we're running about 194 degrees internal temperature. So we're about 9 degrees away from that finished temp on the briskets. We're gonna go ahead and slow it down a little bit now since we are doing good time. We've been holding steady anywhere around 275 to 300 degrees to get it up to temp. Now that they're up to temp, they're at that rendering temperature, right? They're going to start to render that fat inside. We're going to get nice and soft, break down those fibers in the meat, and then we'll go from there. Once we hit that 203 degrees, we're going to go ahead and we're going to unwrap them. We're going to wrap them in cellophane, and then we're going to put them in the warming box, and we're just going to let them rest all night. We're going to let them just do their thing. It's going to have something like a 10-hour rest. But let me show you right now where we're at in terms of the temperature on the smoker pit and what the firebox is doing, okay? So right now we're running about just a little bit past 275, probably like 280. And then we're also 280 right here as well. We're close to it. And that's what we're running with right now. Now we have consistently been running a coal bed about that size, and I'll feed it a split, you know, maybe like 1 an hour, give or take, is what it's running. Now that we got a really good coal bed, well, we've had a good coal bed, but we'll run about 1 split every hour to hour and 20 minutes, give or take. Always put my split like that. So we were just getting up to temp really good. We didn't put multiple, but we just throttled it back just like that. So it's doing a really good job at holding those temps right where we want them. we're cooking, we're nice and steady. We'll see you tomorrow when we get ready to take those out of the hot box and start slicing into it and just see how they turned out.